Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Cordamd, and in this video I'll be giving a brief review of the demo of Solasta 2. I actually just finished recording my own playthrough of the demo for the channel. I'm gonna leave a link up here for the episodes in case you guys want to see my own experience with the game. And I will start the video by saying that if you want to try Solasta 2 for yourself and play the demo, you can download it for free on Steam. You don't have to buy the game, you don't have to buy any kind of early access, you can just download it freely and play the game for yourself. The demo is, I think, kind of short. It took me around 2 hours from start to finish. Maybe if you explore a little bit more, you might find some other things, but overall it's a brief experience, but it's something that you can definitely use to see how the game plays, and if you like the gameplay and the UI, or if you don't like it, of course. So let's actually just start the demo over here so we can look at it and comment on the game itself. And I will also start by saying that I have some context or some background coming into this demo of Solasta 2.
God.
I played the first game, the main campaign. I liked it a lot. I think the strong points of the first Solasta game definitely are the gameplay, the combat, you know, the fact that it is a D&D game, which is, to me at least, very enjoyable, and I know a lot of people like to play D&D. The interface and the UI of the first game is also very clean, it's very easy to use, it's very, very well done. So I think everything related to the gameplay itself and the interaction with the game was top tier in Solasta 1. The story itself, some animations and stuff like that, you know, it wasn't the best. It wasn't bad by any means, but it also wasn't spectacular or particularly memorable. Overall, I would still say Solasta 1, the main campaign, was a very enjoyable experience. I liked it a lot, and I would definitely recommend if anybody is looking for a CRPG, especially, you know, turn-based Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I think Solasta 1 is a very solid option to try out. I also played both DLCs. The first one, I don't know their names anymore, I apologize, but it's something Valley or something like that. I also enjoyed it. It was quite solid in terms of gameplay, new enemies, new areas, very, very good. I did not like some things they did with factions and reputation. I did not like that at all. And then finally, for the the second DLC, I think it was the Palace of Ice or something like that. I didn't even finish it. You start off playing with the party already leveled up, I think at level 10, which I normally don't like a lot. I prefer to start from level 1 with my characters to get accustomed to them. And the overall area wasn't really interesting me that much. Other than that, I also played through, I believe, 2 custom campaigns, which I also liked very, very much. All these things are also in the channel in case you want to check those out. So, all this to say that I am coming to Solasta 2 and I have a lot of things to compare to, right? So I'm not just judging and reviewing this game in the void, I am comparing it a lot to the first game as well. So, when you pick up this demo, what you can expect is you will start with a pre-made party of 4 elements. I think just like in the first game, the party limit is 4, and then you can sometimes have some temporary companions, which can be, I think, up to a party of 6. But your core party will always be 4 people. And in this case, your party of 4 starts with these 4 characters. You have no choice. You cannot build your own character in any way or shape. They all start at level 3. I don't know if the game itself starts at level 3 or if you start at level 1. I'm hoping level 1, but we'll see in the future. And you have a Dwarf Paladin. I like the party quite a bit, by the way. I think it's a solid party to play with. You start with a Dwarf Paladin. You have a multi-classed Fighter Cleric, which I think is something new. If I remember correctly, in the first Solasta game, you only had pure classes, which then you could kind of branch out into specific archetypes, but you could not multi-class, if memory serves. In here, you can do it. So Nita, for example, is a level 1 cleric, level 2 fighter. I am also not sure how this will play out in terms of the full release of the game. If you can multi-class, like let's say Baldur's Gate 3, where you can put, you know, one level of every class freely and do whatever you want, or if the game will have its own implementation restrictions and maybe restrict you to only having like 2 classes or 3 classes. I don't know, because during the entire course of the demo, I never leveled up. I started at level 3 and I finished the demo at level 3 as well, so I don't know what the level up UI looks like. Then you also have a sorcerer and you also have a rogue. So overall I would say a pretty balanced party, and a party that I would definitely make for myself. You know, a strong frontline tanky character capable of dishing out some damage and some utility with a paladin. A melee combatant which is, you know, competent in melee combat, but can also support by having cleric spells. A sorcerer to have access to arcane magic, always very useful and very strong. And finally, a rogue for just straight up a lot of damage and also utility in sneaking and, you know, lockpicking and stuff like that. So this is a party that I would consider quite balanced, and I would recommend for anybody playing ACRPG. So I think it's a good lineup for this demo also. I won't go through all of these things, I don't think there's much of a point to it. But yeah, you get these characters at level 3, they all come pre-equipped, they all come with their spells and abilities selected. So you cannot choose any of that. What else do I have to say in terms of what you can expect? Not much really, right? You start with a quest here, Ellie's Invitation, and you get a pretty straightforward experience in terms of exploring the demo. When you start the demo, the game also tells you straight up that there are some things which might be missing or incomplete, such as animations, for example, because it's just a demo and you can expect more to come in the early access and the full release, obviously. One of the things that stood out to me immediately was the paladin using Divine Smite, which is like one of the signature skills for a paladin, and I was expecting Divine Smite to have like a very explosive and flashy animation, and there's just no animation. Of course I expect it to be improved later on, but yeah, I'm talking about what I saw in the demo, so that's one of the things. You can definitely see some animations are missing in this demo. Now, in terms of comparing this game to the first game, there are some things which will be immediately apparent to you in terms of what they changed from one game to the other. And, you know, the first thing you will notice is the graphical quality. Now, the first game was not ugly per se, but, you know, it wasn't particularly beautiful either. And one of the things that a lot of people criticized the game about was in terms of the models and the faces and animations and stuff like that. And you can clearly see that they improved upon that greatly. So the faces, the animations, the models, their own animations are, in my opinion, much better than in the first game. And also just the overall scenery, physics, like, you know, the banners over here with the wind and stuff like that. All those things were improved. For me, it's not particularly important. I don't play a game like this for the graphics. Like I said, the first game was criticized because of some of those things. I did not mind that at all. Like I said, I think the strong point of this game is the gameplay, the D&D implementation, the good interface, not necessarily the graphics, but they did improve upon that, so, you know, that's a good thing to have. The way you interact with the game is quite similar. They did add something that I don't think the first game had, which is you can control this group. How can I do this? No, you can split your party members around, which I don't remember if you could in the first game or not. But the main thing that's different here is you can actually control the cats with direct control, and you use something like WASD, like I'm doing right now, which is, you know, it reminds me of Dragon Age, instead of clicking around on the map. It actually even disables the clicking, which I think is unnecessary, but okay. I still prefer the more traditional style of just clicking, but yeah, you can do that if you want to do that. What else can I say? The game is pretty. The demo doesn't have a lot to explore. You have a couple of quests, nothing too spectacular.
I hope that's not
You get to see stuff like this where you interact with the environment and you have skill checks and how they work. You have combat encounters, you have quests which can either go through combat or you can resolve them through dialogue and skill checks as well, such as persuasion or charisma or stuff like that. Overall, I think in the demo I had around 3 combat encounters, which was not a lot, obviously. 2 of those combat encounters were against crabs. So yeah, okay, minor spoilers. I am going to be spoiling some things in this review. Nothing too special, but still. So you have 2 fights versus crabs, which are not very engaging. But you get to experience, you know, how the combat works, how things flow, how the interface works and stuff like that. And then you have like a big fight at the end of the demo. There was a potential other fight that I did not do because I resolved the situation peacefully through charisma checks. But you could also fight against some kobolds if you wanted to, somewhat early in the game as well. And I would say in terms of combat, I can actually just load part of that final fight, so you can see a couple of enemies and how the interface looks and stuff like that. And we can talk a little bit about how that works, because I do still think the combat is the best part of the game. So yeah, this is the fight at the end of the demo. It's actually a somewhat complex fight. You have multiple elements to it, you have different phases, you have stuff happening in the environment that you have to control. The environment itself gets blown up and you start losing bits of the ground as you go. You have to stabilize this nexus and blah blah blah. So it is a somewhat complex fight. It wasn't easy. I think part of it is because I didn't know what to expect, so I had consumed a lot of my resources before coming to this. So I even have 2 people downed over here. I was still able to beat it in the first try, but it was not a free fight, let's say. But yeah, so things you can see in terms of combat will be somewhat familiar to what you have in Solasta 1. You have your own combat interface over here where you have your favorites, you have your main actions, you have your bonus actions, and you might also have other actions. For example, she is a fighter, so she has action surge. It will show up as an other action over here. And then you have your main attack, you have your spell casting menu, you have stabilize, because in this case I have people which are dying, so this pops up so you are incentivized to stabilize them. You have your advanced combat actions, such as, for example, dash, disengage, or dodge. You have your use device menu, where you can use items, you know, like potions, grenades, abilities from items and stuff like that. And you may also have some bonus actions as well. For example, again, the fighter has second wind, so it shows up over here. You have your hit points, you have your movement, you have your currently equipped weapons, inventory, armor class, current level, and you also have your combat log over here. So everything is pretty clearly shown, and I think it's very easy to get accustomed to using this interface. So again, just like in the first game, I think the UI is quite solid, very, very good, and one of the best experiences for playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that I can think of currently. Now, one thing that I do not like, and I hope we get an option for this in the final game, is the fact that this game takes place in a grid-based movement, right? So right now, it doesn't show you a grid, but if you see me, you know, hovering with the mouse, it's a discrete movement. It's not a continuous movement of the positions. You can clearly see this is a square, another square, another square, right? So this is a grid. However, the game does not actually show the grid like it did in Solasta 1. Now, for the most part, it's not a big deal, but there are situations that I had in this demo where it was kind of a hindrance to not have the grid, because it's not always obvious if you are, for example, adjacent to an enemy. You might not know if you are in range to attack, you might not know if you are in range to get an attack of opportunity if you move away. Whereas if you had the grid clearly outlined, it would be a lot simpler to understand that, especially if you get like verticality, slopes and stuff like that. It's not obvious if you are adjacent or not. Now, to note that in this demo, the options themselves are very, very basic. You have almost nothing to play around with. So if you look at controls, as far as I know, I cannot even change the key bindings on my controls. Obviously, I expect it to change in the final version of the game, but over here we don't have it. And in gameplay and in video, I do not have an option to enable the grid so I can see the grid in the combat. I do hope in the final game they give us at least an option to enable that. Other than that, in terms of the combat part of the gameplay, I did not see any glaring problems. I think it works quite well, even for a pre-alpha version. It's very familiar to Solasta 1, so very good. The only thing that I had an issue with, well, not really an issue, but it shouldn't happen, is that at times I had enemies act outside of the camera. So the camera would not focus on the enemy, which resulted in the enemy doing things, and I wasn't understanding what was happening. So I had to look at the combat log, and I even have a perfect example right here, which you know is an example of what happened. I had my rogue, which is currently downed over here. She's over here, I think. Here, yeah. She got killed, and I didn't see what happened. And the reason for that was, there is an enemy, I think over here. Yeah, this guy over here. No, not this one. This one over here, this Mana Weaver. He's quite far away from us. And basically, he cast magic missiles and hit my rogue and killed her. But the camera did not pan over to the enemy. I could not see this enemy. I didn't see him casting anything. So yeah, I had to open the log and see, oh, he cast magic missile and he hit Daisy 3 times, which brought her down. If not for the log, I wouldn't have seen it. So, obviously, I think in an improved version of the game, the camera would have panned to the enemy so we could see what he was doing. But honestly, other than that, I did not have any kind of issue with the gameplay, be it exploring the map or dealing with enemies in the game. So when you move the mouse around, you can see this little ghost, which is where the character will be at the end of their movement. And you can even see these lines, which will show you the line of sight for the enemy. So you can see if I go over here, I can see this enemy. And if I go, let's say, over here, I can see that enemy and another enemy over here to the southeast, which is useful to see if you are in range or line of sight of them attacking you, and if you can also use your spells to target them, because you do need line of sight to target enemies in the battlefield. What else? What else do I want to mention here in terms of the combat? I don't think there's a lot more to say to this, except that, yeah, it works well, it flows well. Some animations are missing, like I said, but that's to be expected in this pre-alpha version. So I think in terms of combat, that kind of clears what I had to say. I can have an example of just using a spell so you can, I guess, see a spell being used. We can have our Sacred Flame targeting this guy. We can even see our percentage to hit here. And, you know, we hit for 3 damage because he failed his saving throw. And if we look at the log, we can see Nida casts Sacred Flame. There is no attack roll because this spell does not have an attack roll attached to it. We can see the enemy failed its saving throw and then received 3 radiant damage because it's a 1d8 roll. Actually, it's not clear to me it's a 1d8 roll. It sounds like it's a 3d8. Yeah, this should be improved. It should say on the top 1d8 and then below that show the 3 damage. Because otherwise I don't know what the expected damage of this is. Yeah, that should be improved, I think. So in terms of combat, I think that's what I had to mention. Let's go back to, I guess, just starting the demo again and talk a little bit about the exploration, because there are some things I want to mention about stuff I would like to see improved. But again, I think most criticism that I have for the game is nothing major, it's nothing game breaking or stuff like that, but it should be improved, I think. The movement itself of the characters flows quite nicely. You don't have to worry like jumping over gaps or crawling under spaces. You just click on the other side, they will automatically jump or crawl. All of that works very well. You can press Alt to highlight stuff like interactables or chests on the ground or stuff to harvest. So all those things are very familiar. It all works quite nicely and as you would expect it. So no real complaints there. You can stealth in the game just like you could in the first game. You can see the area of detection of enemies, so you can play around with that as well. You can ambush, starting a fight with advantage. I did not actually use this in the demo, but you could do this in the first game. I expect you can do the same thing in the second game as well. You basically have a free turn, which is stupidly powerful. It's very, very powerful. But yeah, so it all works quite well. And then, I guess my major criticism for the exploration is in terms of the map. Because you can open the map by pressing M, right? And you can choose what you want to see. You can have some indications of what the map contains, like containers and stuff to harvest. This is your tagged quest or highlighted quest gets highlighted in the map as well. Characters, stuff like that. So all this quite familiar. But one thing I really, really dislike, and I hate it, when games do this, and this is not the only game that does it, is that we have this map, and let's say I want to go over here. I want to go over here, right? I should be able to just click. Like left click or right click the mouse, and the characters should start moving over there. Instead, that does not happen. I cannot use the map to move my characters around. That is a major, I don't know the best word for it. It's a downside for me. It's disappointing. A lot of games do this, even very, very old games, so this one should do it as well. And the other part is, I cannot even target the area I want, and then let's say I could press M, and it should show that area, instead of showing my party again, so I could then click on the ground. At least give me that, okay? But the game doesn't allow for that, which is annoying. To me, it's annoying. Again, it's not a major issue, it doesn't break the game or stuff like that, but it's something that over time, as you play the game, will start wearing down on you, and I do wish that they improve upon this for the final release of the game. What else? I think, like, in terms of comparing this game to the first game, for the most part, I can see it as being an improvement. I think most things are an improvement of the first game. The graphics, the animations, the dialogue cutscenes, those are a clear improvement. The other parts of the game, you know, they might flow a little bit better, the animations might be a little bit better, but I don't think there's anything that I can say is like a major upgrade from the first game. I do think if you've played Solasta 1 and then you try Solasta 2, it doesn't feel all that different. And in a way, that's good. Because again, the best part of the first game was the gameplay, so them keeping with the same approach is a smart idea in my opinion. So you have more Solasta, which is good. In terms of the story, I can't speak too much about it because, again, the demo lasts like 2 hours, so you don't get to see a lot of it. You do meet some interesting characters. At the end of the demo, it clearly shows you what feels like the main antagonist of the game, the main villain, with a cool introduction. I think it was a cool introduction. Overall, I cannot say I was very much, a fan of, I don't know, the setting itself. It was all very elemental-ish and very purple-ish, and I don't know, I'm more classic in that sense. I like to explore more of the classic stuff of, Dungeons and Dragons types of games. But that's extremely subjective, right? That's neither here nor there. I do think the intro to the game, or at least what you see in the demo, is appealing. You get pulled into what's happening, and I do want to see what's coming afterwards, and I do want to learn more about the main antagonist and what's happening in the world. So I think the game does have a good hook to pull you in and make you want to play more and explore more of the game. Other than that, some stuff that annoys me a little bit is the inventory. For the most part, the inventory works quite well. Again, it's a very clean and clear interface. You can see your character stuff, your origin, your class, skills, saving throws, blah, 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 blah. You can see your inventory, where you have your items and what you want to equip. You can also see your spells and abilities. All of this is very nicely done, and even the background for this interface is very, very cool, mind you. It's a small detail to have this background for the spells, but it's a very cool detail, I would say. So I do like this a lot. But I hated this in the first game and I hate it here, which is the fact that when you are controlling your party, you do not control, you don't select 4 people, right? You pick a main guy, and that main guy is the lead for your party, and everybody follows. I don't have an issue with that, okay? I have no issues with this. But what also means is, every time you interact with a container, or a plant to harvest, or a corpse to loot, the inventory which will show up is the inventory of the main guy. And if you choose to loot all, or loot the items one by one, they will, by default, go into this character. What you see here is not a shared inventory, it's a personal inventory. Every party member has their own inventory, and that's fine. But what's really annoying is the weight mechanic, because if you pick up too much stuff, you get over encumbered, and it's very easy to get over encumbered as you are exploring the game and picking up items and looting your enemies. And I mean, sure, when you go to loot, you can easily pick which character you want to loot to, but it's still an extra maneuver that you have to handle every single time you go to pick up loot. Even with that mechanic present in my mind, I got over encumbered at least, I don't know, 6 to 10 times with my dwarf here as I went through the demo. So in around 2 hours I was over encumbered over 6-10 times, which I think it could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion. But yeah, other than that, again, it's a minor thing. It annoys me, but it's a minor thing. Overall, again, I do think that all of this is very well done, and a very pretty and clear interface. With that said, I think that's basically it for what I wanted to talk about in terms of the demo. Again, it is a short demo, so keep in mind that this review that I'm doing here is based on 2 hours of gameplay. I made 2 videos, nothing else. I don't know what the level up interface is. I don't know what kind of multi-classing we can have. I don't know what kind of loot we can expect, if we can have very magical stuff or if it's only stuff like +1 or +2. The spells themselves, I didn't see what other spells existed. I only have access to what my party currently has. So, yeah. It was a cool experience. I can't say that I was super impressed with the game. How do I say this? So, it's not a bad game. It wasn't a bad experience. I know that for sure. It was not a bad experience. I can see myself playing this game quite easily. But at the same time, it did not make any kind of spectacular impression either, right? There are those games where you pick them up and you start playing for a little while and you see, okay, this game is freaking awesome. And, you know, in this game, that doesn't really happen. I think the first Solasta game has a similar feel. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's not a spectacular, super different experience. I do think it's a good Dungeons and Dragons experience, which I think is what we can expect for this game. It's a good experience. It's a fun time playing with this game. But yeah, I was not blown away by the game in any kind of aspect. It was okay or good. I think the combat is good. I think the gameplay and the interface are good. The story is, you know, it's somewhat interesting, but I would just call it more of okay. Nothing too special there. The dialogue, the voice acting is okay. There are some, at least to me, some very bad things. They try to be funny with some of the dialogues, and at least to me, it just comes out wrong. It's not a humor I appreciate. Some people might like it, I don't know. But yeah, it's okay. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else will come from the game. I think there will be an early access version of the game coming out sometime this year. As far as I know, there is no date for that as of yet. I tried to reach out to... what are they called? What are they called? Give me a second. Tactical Adventures. I reached out to Tactical Adventures to see if they had any kind of creator program where they could give me some kind of early access for review, but I was shot down because my channel is too tiny and I'm not a noteworthy creator for them to give me anything of that sort. So sadly, I won't have any, you know, extra early stuff that other creators might have for you guys. But I am looking forward to seeing what the early access has and what the final release of the game looks like. Because from what I tried over here and my experience with the first game, I think it's a game I will very easily purchase and play because, you know, I like the style of game, I like Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to see what they do with Solasta 2. That's it for this video, my friends. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this review was helpful or at least somewhat interesting. Again, if you want to try the game for yourselves and play the demo, you can download it for free on Steam. There might be other platforms for it, but I am using it on Steam. If you have any questions, suggestions, if you want to share your own experiences playing the demo, leave a comment below. If you are enjoying the content, consider subscribing for more. Many more videos coming out soon, and it is also a free and easy way to support the channel. I hope to see you all in the next video, and until then, stay safe everyone.